Israel's Air Force obliterates Iran's most heavily guarded military sites, while Iranian missiles rip through Tel Aviv and Haifa. But there's one chilling weapon Iran just unveiled that could change everything. Are we seeing the beginning of a regional catastrophe? The answer lies within the missiles Iran has been saving for just this moment. Iran's decision to deploy its most advanced missile arsenal wasn't a random act of aggression. It was a calculated move designed to send a message, not just to Israel, but to the entire region. For years, Tehran has invested heavily in building one of the most extensive missile programs in the world, recognizing early on that missiles are both a tool of deterrence and a symbol of power. Among its arsenal is the Haj Qassem missile, named after the revered Iranian general. What makes this weapon so concerning is its ability to outmaneuver some of the world's most sophisticated missile defense systems, including Israel's much-praised Iron Dome and David's Sling system. With a range exceeding 1,200 kilometers and equipped with advanced guidance systems, it's designed to ensure maximum destruction by targeting critical Israeli infrastructure or densely populated urban hubs with pinpoint precision. Over 2 days, Tel Aviv and Haifa were struck by a barrage of these advanced missiles. In Tel Aviv, residential neighborhoods erupted into flames as missiles found their way past Israel's layered defense network. Entire apartment complexes were reduced to rubble, leaving behind hollowed-out structures and streets littered with debris. Haifa wasn't spared either. Its bustling industrial zones were hit hard, including a major refinery that caught fire, sending thick black smoke into the air over the city. Hospitals in both cities were stretched to their limits. Medical staff worked around the clock to treat hundreds of injured civilians, many of whom had no time to reach shelter before the missile struck. Meanwhile, the death toll steadily climbed as emergency teams continued to search for survivors beneath the ruins. But the destruction wasn't just physical. The psychological toll on Israeli civilians has been enormous. Families huddle in bomb shelters for hours, unsure if it's safe to surface or if the next missile could still be incoming. Schools are closed, businesses shuttered, and the once bustling streets of both cities are eerily empty, except for the flashing lights of emergency vehicles. For Israeli citizens, the attacks were a grim reminder that even with one of the most advanced defense systems in the world, no shield is ever impenetrable. And for Iran, that reality was a deliberate part of the strategy. Iran's Revolutionary Guard Corps, or the IRGC, didn't launch these missiles without careful consideration. Analysis suggests that while the strikes caused significant damage, they represented only a fraction of Iran's full stockpile. The IRGC is rationing these missiles strategically, fully aware of escalatory risk if the United States were to intervene. Washington has already committed military assets to the region, including aircraft carriers, making any escalation a potential gamble for Tehran. But for now, Iran's leadership appears confident in its ability to control the narrative by balancing aggressive strikes with restrained deployment. Beyond the borders of Israel, Iran's threats extend far into global trade routes. The IRGC has repeatedly hinted that it could close or disrupt the Strait of Hormuz, a vital corridor for global oil shipments. This would send shockwaves through the international economy, creating yet another layer of pressure on Israel and its allies to rethink any prolonged retaliation. By tying its missile strikes to a broader regional strategy, Iran is positioning itself not just as a military adversary to Israel, but as a major player capable of destabilizing global systems. Walking through the streets of Tel Aviv or Haifa after the strikes, the scale of devastation is impossible to ignore. Buildings no longer stand upright, but slump sideways as if exhausted. Sidewalks are cracked, cars overturned, and in some areas, the lingering smoke stings the lungs of anyone venturing outside. Families displaced by the attacks line up in makeshift shelters, clutching their belongings and quietly wondering how long this nightmare will last. Emergency responders relay stories of exhaustion, working shifts so long that they sleep next to their ambulances when minutes of rest allow. The scenes are chaotic, yet they're becoming tragically familiar. Military analysis point to the Haj Qassem missile as a key challenge for Israel moving forward. While Israel's defense systems are advanced, they are designed to counter a wide spectrum of threats simultaneously. The Haj Qassem, however, has been purpose-built to exploit weaknesses in these systems, such as relatively slow interception speeds or gaps in radar coverage during high-intensity barrages. One defense consultant remarked, "This missile is not just a threat, it's a statement." Iran knew exactly what it was doing by choosing now to deploy it. With Iran proving it can hit Israel where it hurts, the pressure is on for Israeli defense planners to adapt quickly or face even greater losses in the weeks ahead. For the IRGC, these attacks represented more than simple retaliation or military posturing. By targeting dense urban centers instead of isolated military targets, Iran sent an unmistakable message. Its conflict with Israel reaches beyond battlefields. Each missile that slammed into residential areas was calibrated to pressure Israel by exposing its vulnerability to civilian deaths, economic disruption, and domestic unrest. Tehran's ultimate goal seems to be creating a scenario where Israel's own citizens begin questioning whether continued military engagement is worth the human cost. Operation Rising Lion began as Israel's most extraordinary military venture in recent history. Designed to dismantle Iran's upper command and halt its pathways to nuclear weapons, the operation relied on bold tactics, cutting-edge technology, and shrewd intelligence. By launching precision airstrikes with stealth fighters and advanced drones, Israel proved capable of breaching the depths of Iranian airspace, an area long thought to be impenetrable. These were not mere demonstrations of power. They were concentrated efforts to destabilize the Iranian command structure and strike a psychological blow that Tehran would struggle to absorb. The campaign started with an unthinkable achievement: the elimination of Major General Mohammad Bagheri, the commander-in-chief of Iran's armed forces, alongside with General Hossein Salami, who led the elite Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps. Both were central figures in Iran's military strategy and national defense. These strikes were carried out in fortified compounds that had to be considered untouchable by foreign militaries. Satellite-guided munitions and GPS-enabled drones allowed surgical precision, ensuring the neutralization of key personnel while avoiding unnecessary civilian casualties in surrounding areas. Even more astonishing, the strikes came without warning, leaving Iran scrambling to understand how its highly secured locations had become vulnerable. The operation didn't stop at military leadership. It extended to personnel involved in Iran's nuclear ambitions, including Faridouan Abbasi, the former head of the Iranian Atomic Energy Agency, and Mohammad Mehdi Tehranchi, a physicist who was instrumental in theoretical research for Iran's nuclear program. Their removal signaled Israel's broader objective, crippling Iran's ability to advance its nuclear weaponization. Without these architects of nuclear strategy, the country's capacity to conduct high-level research and development faces severe disruption. For Iran, the twin targeting of military minds and nuclear scientists posed distinct challenges, each stripping away a layer of strategic depth. Yet, the risks for Israel were substantial. To carry out airstrikes deep inside Iranian territory required maneuvering around one of the region's most sophisticated air defense systems. The logistical complexity of these missions cannot be overstated. Stealth fighters like the F-35 Adir were deployed at unprecedented range, assisted by aerial refueling to ensure operational endurance. Drones were used as force multipliers, shadowing manned aircraft and providing real-time data to enhance strike accuracy. These missions also had contended with the probability of detection and interception, where even a minor miscalculations could trigger immediate retaliation by Iranian forces, potentially broadening the conflict to an uncontrollable extent. The aftermath within Iran's borders was chaotic. The loss of top generals and scientists created ripples of confusion in the military hierarchy. Lower-ranking officers were thrust into roles far beyond their experience or capacity, struggling to fill the leadership void in the wake of the strikes. Command chains became fragmented, and the conflicting orders prolonged operational paralysis. Iran's nuclear program, long regarded as a looming threat in the region, suffered critical setbacks, both in expertise and continuity of work. These disruptions reverberated through every layer of Iran's defense outlook, leaving state officials scrambling for damage control. One Iranian government advisor was quoted as describing the situation as a humiliating shock that exposed our deepest vulnerabilities. The psychological impact stretched far beyond logistical setbacks. Iran's leadership, long accustomed to operating from bunkers and compounds heavily shielded from potential threats, suddenly found those very sanctuaries compromised. This shift has forced a rethinking of survival strategies as officials grasp the unsettling reality that their strongholds are no longer secure. These strikes sent a chilling signal. Israel possesses not only the technology to penetrate defenses, but also the intelligence precision to locate and eliminate individual, high-value targets at will. Such realizations deeply undercut the confidence of a regime already facing mounting pressures at home and abroad. Despite the blow, Iran's response has been deliberate rather than rash. Warnings of devastating operations have circulated within its state media, hinting at retaliatory plans under development. However, Tehran understands the stakes all too well. An escalatory counterstrike targeting Israel or its regional allies could easily draw the United States further into the conflict. For now, Iran appears poised to use uncertainty as its greatest weapon, keeping its adversaries guessing about the scope and timing of any future reaction. But this waiting game carries risks of its own. Every passing day brings greater scrutiny of Iran's weakened position. Operation Rising Lion did not just attack Iran's physical capability to wage war or develop nuclear weapons. It delivered a powerful symbolic message. It showcased Israel's willingness to strike first if it deems an existential threat unavoidable. The swift and effective neutralization of Iran's top generals and scientists demonstrated an unmatched level of military sophistication, exposing gaps in Iran's ability to defend its most vital assets. More importantly, the strike shifted the strategic equation in the region. Instead of a conflict dominated by missile exchanges and economic sanctions, Israel turned the fight inward, shaking a regime that has long projected itself as invulnerable. Thanks for watching. Please like, share, and subscribe for more fact-based, in-depth content on global military events.